One moment, Victoria Lawson was showing off our relationship on social media. The next, she quietly picked up the limited edition sports car I'd had on order for ages from the dealership. An hour later, Victoria's male assistant, Ethan Moreau, posted a picture with it online. Having a female boss who looks out for her subordinates is my blessing. She knew I loved cars like my own life, yet she dared to steal mine and give it away. That evening, I had every single top-tier sports car from my private collection delivered to her doorstep. I told her to pick whichever she liked and give them away. My father even arranged for me to accept the Thorntons' matchmaking dinner proposal overnight. I have money, looks, and physique. Why waste time on someone who doesn't love me? 1. At dusk, I stood on the villa balcony, watching the sunset. An imposing roar echoed from the distance, and a black and gold limited edition supercar appeared at the villa gate. Ethan Moreau circled the car and walked to the passenger side, gently opening the door. A slender, silver glittering high heel stepped onto the ground. Victoria Lawson, dressed in a white suit and holding a white crocodile leather bag, emerged. Her gaze was fixed intently, almost aggressively, on Ethan, who held the door for her. I saw them exchange a few words, and Victoria laughed, looking particularly happy. A notification popped up on my phone. It was a new post from Ethan. A side profile shot taken from the passenger seat, girlfriend's perspective. His long fingers gripped the steering wheel, a perfect curve gracing his lips. Driving my boss home in the car she gifted me. Even the air feels sweet. In that instant, all my anticipation vanished. When the salesperson messaged me in the afternoon, I thought Victoria was planning a quiet surprise. I spent 3 hours excitedly picking out an outfit in the walk-in closet. Starving, I waited, but she never came. Then I opened my phone and saw Ethan's post. At first, I wondered if Ethan had sneakily taken the picture for vanity, behind Victoria's back. But seeing this new post confirmed it. She had genuinely taken the car I'd been dreaming about for over half a year from the dealership and given it to someone else. I walked out and stood before Victoria. Ethan Moreau took 2 long strides forward, blocking my path. "Mr. Ashworth, good evening. Director Lawson just had dinner with me, so we're back a bit late. Please don't blame her." Facing his provocation, my eyes turned colder. I found it somewhat amusing. In what capacity was he telling me not to blame my own girlfriend? "I haven't said anything yet, but you seem eager to point the finger at me." Ethan's eyes flickered slightly. His cool face paled a little. I smirked. "Getting used to the car?" After years in the real world, people develop intuition. A supercar worth nearly $3 million wasn't something a market director like Victoria, with no family backing, could afford. If he dared to accept it, he must have guessed who the original owner was. Ethan mumbled an Victoria stepped in front of him, pulling at my sleeve. "All right, sincere. Doesn't Ethan drive me to and from work every day? It just occurred to me today that you'd ordered a supercar, so I picked it up and gave it to Ethan on a whim. You have so many supercars, you won't mind, right?" Hands in my pockets, lips curled back. My eyes gleamed coldly. "No, I mind. I waited over half a year for this supercar. No one can take it, not even you, my girlfriend." Victoria hadn't expected me to be so direct. Her expression instantly soured. Silence fell. Ethan Moreau also pressed his lips together tightly, saying nothing. As another man, he naturally knew why I was angry. No man could watch the woman he loved use his money to buy gifts for another man, even if the gift was meant to serve her. "Mr. Ashworth, it's my fault. I shouldn't have accepted Director Lawson's gift. I'll cancel the registration and return it to the dealership right away." Listen to that, making me sound petty. Ethan Moreau, right? It's just a car. I can afford to give one away. I have over a dozen supercars in my garage. Pick any one you like, drive it away. Consider it a gift from me. He looked up, a hint of surprise in his eyes. I narrowed my eyes at him, exuding an air of authority. "Victoria has been with me for 9 years. She's seen the world. She doesn't think giving away a supercar is a big deal. But you should know, as an assistant, what's appropriate to accept and what isn't." Ethan took a step back, flustered, apologizing repeatedly. You're right to correct me, Mr. Ashworth. It was my mistake. Please don't blame Director Lawson. Director Lawson? He'd called her Ningji earlier, which was overly familiar. Now this formality. Victoria, teetering on her heels, shielded Ethan behind her and wrapped her arms around my waist. She pulled a bottle of cologne from her 8-figure Hermes bag, smiling indulgently. All right now, Prince. I bought you the new limited edition cologne. Don't be angry anymore. I looked down at the cologne in her hand, memories of the past 9 years flooding back. Victoria and I had been together since college. As a cool beauty, men had lined up to worship her, falling over themselves for her attention. But she firmly rejected them all, staying faithfully by my side. In moments of passion, she'd whispered in my ear that she would only love me, that I was her life, but everything had changed now. In her eyes, I saw admiration and concern for another man. I saw her smile at him, reveal her emotions to him. The cologne in her hand was a brand I hadn't liked for a long time. Her tone, a mix of coaxing and mock complaint, pulled me back to reality. I know you're jealous because you love me, but anyone who didn't know better would think you were targeting a junior employee. Targeting him. He wasn't worthy. My eyes narrowed slightly as I walked into the villa, speaking coldly. The way Ethan Moreau looks at you is definitely not how a subordinate normally looks at a superior. As market director, you're sharp. You couldn't possibly miss it. Daring to give a multi-million-dollar supercar to a man who admires you, Victoria. She frowned petulantly. I know there's nothing between Ethan and me. Not now, not ever. My gaze deepened. For now, I chose to believe her pledge. Having loved her for so many years, what storms hadn't we weathered? Getting jealous over a reasonably attractive male assistant was truly beneath me. I'd vented my anger, and I'd get my beloved supercar back. No need to dwell on it too much. After all, there was no proof of any actual affair. Victoria led me all the way into the bathroom. Her eyes were slightly red, shimmering with emotion. Mrs. Davis is off today. You take a shower first, I'll go cook you a steak. I nodded, watching her leave, then pulled open the drawer where my underwear was kept. I frowned. Her voice came from outside the door. Oh, right, Mrs. Davis said your underwear needed replacing, so she threw them all out. Get a new pack from the bottom. I bent down and opened the bottom cabinet. I have OCD. Everything must be laid out neatly. Mrs. Davis was meticulous about this, checking carefully every day. But in the cabinet, one box of men's underwear was missing. In a flash, I remembered Ethan's social media post from a couple of days ago. Among the grid of photos showcasing his lifestyle rituals was a box of this exact brand of underwear. Rage instantly consumed me, stripping away my reason. Victoria Lawson giving my underwear to her assistant? Although I hated to admit it, I was consumed by jealousy. In 9 years together, this was the first time I'd been this furious over another man. I wanted to storm downstairs immediately and demand an explanation from Victoria. Did she even know what giving a man underwear implied? Just as I was trying to calm myself before going down, the click-clack of Victoria's slippers approached, and she pushed open the bathroom door. Sincere, Ethan returned the car to the dealership, but I need to go sign off on the cancellation. You'll have to sort out dinner yourself. Already angry, her words added fuel to the fire. Can't it wait until tomorrow? Must you go out specifically this late? Victoria paused, frowning. Don't you like this car? Returning it promptly is for your sake too. My face grew cold, my heart chilling. You took the car without my permission. I simply reclaimed what was rightfully mine. It's late now, not safe to go out. Go tomorrow. She sighed, her eyes filled with disapproval. You publicly took back the gift I gave Ethan. Now you're making him waste time at the dealership. Sincere, you can't just think about yourself. You're acting like a stranger. My boiling anger suddenly dissipated, replaced by an endless coldness and disappointment. I suddenly found it laughable. Me thinking only of myself. I'm acting like a stranger. Victoria, do you even hear yourself right now? Impatient, Victoria nonetheless tried to explain patiently. My words were harsh, but you should know Ethan is the person who helps me most with work right now. You embarrassed him publicly today. I can't just abandon him now. Seeing me silent, she sighed again. Sincere, you come from a prominent family. You're different from ordinary people like me. If I want a future with you, I have to become stronger. Sure, you could throw a tantrum today and stop me from going, but alienating a partner who fights alongside me is something I'm unwilling to do. My mind exploded. So, in Victoria's heart, she'd always felt we weren't well matched. Ethan was the partner who could stand shoulder to shoulder with her. So that's how it was. My heart grew cold. The words escaped me. Go then. Seeing me relent, she turned and left without a moment's hesitation. All that remained was the fading scent of cold gardenia in the air. Once I most admired this rational, clear-headed quality in Victoria. She used to say she loved my innate pride and untamed spirit most. Everything had changed. Resigned, I looked up and exhaled towards the ceiling. A woman whose heart had strayed wasn't worth keeping. I pulled out my phone and called my father, far away in Beijing. The matchmaking dinner invitation from the Thornton family? I'll go. 5 years ago, after graduating college, my father wanted me to return to Beijing to take over the family business. Unwilling to leave Victoria, I stayed in a city. In 5 years, I transformed from a know-nothing wealthy heir into a self-made businessman. Whatever Victoria wanted to do, I supported her. Through 5 years of struggles and mutual support, we built the largest clothing company in a city. Annual revenue approached billions of dollars, only for her to say we weren't a match. Leaving all this behind to return to Beijing, I truly felt a pang of reluctance. A message from Victoria popped up on my phone. She said the sports car registration was canceled, and it was returned to the dealership. She and Ethan were going back to the office to work late tonight. She wouldn't be home. I lay in bed, sleepless all night. The next day, on an empty stomach, I arrived at the company. Surprisingly, breakfast from Victoria was on my desk. Ethan and I are meeting some clients. Let's have lunch together. The handwriting on the sticky note was Victoria's. The breakfast in the bag, however, was crab dumplings, my least favorite. Clearly, she hadn't prepared this for me. I handed the breakfast to my assistant and asked him to buy me something else. A spoiled relationship is like an unappetizing breakfast. There's no need to force yourself to stomach it. At 1 p.m., having finished all my documents, I still hadn't seen Victoria. My assistant suddenly pushed the door open and casually remarked, "Boss, I saw Director Lawson and her assistant having seafood. What do you want? I'll order for you." I froze for a moment, frowning. "Where did you see that?" The assistant waved his phone, looking surprised. On his social media, her assistant posted thanking Director Lawson for treating him to a feast. I lit a cigarette, exhaling smoke into the air. Any guilt I felt about impulsively agreeing to the matchmaking dinner last night completely vanished. At 3 p.m., Victoria clicked open my office door on her heels. Ethan followed behind her. "Sincere, sorry, the client meeting ran long, so we couldn't make it back." We grabbed a quick bite outside. "You've eaten, right?" I picked up the documents she brought back, murmuring a faint, She pulled out the chair in front of my desk and sat down, sighing. "Sincere, somehow the news about the sports car spread through the company. They're all gossiping about Ethan behind his back. Could you maybe, considering we signed several big deals today, step in, help clarify things for him?" My hand, about to sign, paused. I looked up. "Didn't you give him the car and he accepted it? Why should I, an outsider, clean up the mess?" Victoria's cool face showed displeasure. "Sincere, you're the boss. It's just a matter of saying a word." I leaned back in my chair, laughing coldly. "You want me to use my authority to force people to shut up? Isn't it normal for people to gossip when a boss gifts an assistant a luxury car, since he dared to accept it and flaunt it openly on social media? Shouldn't he have anticipated this outcome?" She certainly was protective of him. And now she wanted me to swallow my disgust and protect him alongside her. "Victoria, 9 years together, do you even have a heart?" Ethan, standing behind her, spoke up. "It's okay, Director Lawson. A few rumors won't hurt me. Mr. Ashworth is already busy. Let's not trouble him with these minor issues." Victoria became agitated, frowning defensively. "How is this a minor issue? You travel everywhere with me on business trips. I don't want people gossiping about you." I threw the documents onto the desk, interrupting their intense gaze. Firstly, if your conscience is clear, you fear no rumors. Victoria, if you were acting purely professionally, rewarding him for bringing huge profits to the company, giving him a supercar would be understandable. But the fact is, the value of these deals doesn't come close to a supercar. I don't care if you misjudged his contribution or felt sorry for him driving you around on business trips. The company pays him an adequate salary. If it's not enough, he can ask for a raise, not have you privately compensate him with my supercar. This issue is yours and his. I shouldn't have to play the boss card to solve it for you. After I finished, both were stunned. Ethan reacted faster than Victoria. He bowed his head towards me, his voice earnest. I'm sorry, Mr. Ashworth. I didn't think this through properly. I'll handle it myself. Please don't blame Victoria. He called her Victoria. In just one night, the somewhat respectful Director Lawson or overly familiar Ning Ji had become Victoria. It seemed their relationship was closer than I thought. Victoria slammed her hand on the table, uttering harsh words. We'll handle it ourselves. We don't need you. She pulled Ethan up, shoved open the office door forcefully, and left without looking back. Before leaving work, I received their joint business trip application and approved it. That night, my close friend Daniel Woods called me out for drinks. He teased that I should have moved on long ago. 9 years devoted to a girl, and in the end she didn't even appreciate it. She probably just feels exhausted being with you. No matter how hard she tries, she can't earn even a tenth of your family's wealth, yet she can't comfortably spend your money either. Can't be helped. That's how modern women are. I downed a mojito, silent. No. When two hearts are truly together, love doesn't become a burden. Only lack of love leads to rational calculation. Forget it. Someone who doesn't belong to me is better gone. When is the meeting with the Thornton girl scheduled? Have you really decided to leave a city? I nodded. Next week. I'll transfer the company's management rights to you, then I'll leave. This clothing company was started by Victoria and me together. We both held equal shares. Since we were cutting ties, everything had to be settled clearly. The entire following week, I was busy with the transfer. Since our argument that day, Victoria had blocked me on WeChat, but Ethan's profile remained visible. He posted photos related to Victoria every day. A sunset by the sea after meeting clients together. Couples breakfast delivered by the hotel early in the morning. Americanos at 3 a.m. while working late on a proposal together. My heart went from initial sourness to gradual numbness, until my assistant hesitantly handed me Ethan's private social media account. Mr. Ashworth, the algorithm recommended this. I thought you should know. I stared at the account for a long time. Ethan's latest post showed Victoria sleeping soundly in his arms, her face in profile. Comments below. Congrats blogger on turning unrequited love into reality, officially official. Wow, after reading the blogger's 4-year secret crush saga. Finally shipping the real CP, turns out secret crushes can really come true. Devoid of emotion, I gave a nonchalant smile and returned the phone to my assistant. Inform everyone, staff meeting this afternoon. This messy love triangle needed to end. At 3 p.m. I entered the company's largest conference room with Daniel Woods on time. I have an announcement. I will be stepping down as general manager. From now on, the company will be fully managed by Mr. Woods beside me and Director Lawson. The room erupted in shocked murmurs. I stepped down from the stage and left the conference room. The next day, a real estate agent came to list the villa for sale. I sat in the car, heading to the airport. The airport terminal bustled with people. Dragging my suitcase towards the security checkpoint, I collided head-on with Victoria and Ethan, who were rushing back. Across the sea of people, our eyes met. Yesterday, I had already asked someone to send her a breakup message. I didn't spare them a glance and walked past. But Victoria grabbed my hand, her voice heavy. Sincere, what tantrum are you throwing? I frowned, speaking coolly. Let go, you're dirty. She didn't let go, instead saying patiently, I know you're angry, I apologize, okay? But Ethan and I really have nothing going on. You selling shares, breaking up. The boarding announcement echoed through the airport. Tired of arguing, I opened my social media app and showed her Ethan's profile page. The evidence is irrefutable. Must I expose every sordid detail before you finally back off? She froze, lips slightly parted, an expression of disbelief on her face. Ignoring her shock, I put my phone away and walked past her. She snapped back to reality, quickly blocking my path, then turned furiously to Ethan behind her. What exactly is going on? When did I ever lie with you like that? Speak up, Ethan Moreau. Ethan's face turned pale, panic flashing in his eyes. Victoria, listen to me explain. Victoria gripped my hand tighter, her eyes blazing with fury. She stared deadly at Ethan as if looking at a traitor. We've never been alone in a room together. Why would you Photoshop such a picture? Also, I asked you before if you liked me, you said no. Was that all a lie? I always saw you as a compatible work partner, but you liked me? Ethan nervously stepped closer to Victoria, his eyes tense. No, Victoria, my feelings for you are my own business. I never intended to break you and Mr. Ashworth up, and my feelings never interfered with work. We're still the best work partners. These photos were just a keepsake. Victoria instantly broke down, her tone sharp. I'm asking you where this photo came from. She desperately needed to know the photo's origin, as if proving its falsity could prove her love was still for me, that only Ethan held unrequited feelings. Ethan lowered his gaze, looking conflicted. That photo was from the night you were drunk and came to my room. You were upset, told me a lot, and finally. Victoria's expression went blank for a moment. She murmured, "Why didn't you push me away?" Ethan explained anxiously. I wanted to push you away, but... I stared at Ethan's hesitant expression and let out a cold laugh. Let me answer that for him. Because it's hard for a man to refuse a woman, especially a woman he loves. Victoria looked at me, seemingly unable to accept this reality. Sincere, I didn't know. I was drunk. I didn't want to hear her explanations. I shook off her hand. If you had no intention, you wouldn't have gone drinking alone late at night, let alone run off to another man's room. At this point, there's nothing more to say between us. No, I won't let you leave. She rushed in front of me, blocking my path. Sincere, we've been together for 9 years. You can't just let go, just walk away. We were even planning to get married next year. Her words stirred a faint ripple within me. I let out a low laugh. Yes, we were planning to get married. A year ago, I secretly flew to Italy to have a unique ring custom made for her. We were so close to getting married. The airport's boarding call sounded again. My expression turned icy once more. Move, we have no future. I walked straight towards the VIP security gate, ignoring Victoria's heartbroken sobs behind me, and boarded the flight to Beijing. The plane landed in Beijing. Father sent a driver to pick me up. Dongjia Minshang Alley looked just the same. The first thing Father did upon seeing me was raise his cane. I told you not to come back wasting 5 years in a city for a woman. And what did you achieve? Lost the woman? Messed up your career? Look at you. What a state. Dodging his blows, I managed a wry smile. Didn't I listen to you? I'm back for the matchmaking dinner with the Thornton girl, aren't I? Seeing me yield, Father snorted coldly. Oblivious brat. Hurry up and get changed. You're coming with me to meet them tonight. I breathed a sigh of relief and headed towards my room. The Thorntons and our family were old acquaintances, both century-old Beijing enterprises. This Miss Thornton I was meeting was supposedly the next head of the Thornton family. Father told me she had met several young men from prominent families, but nothing came of it. I had no interest in this young lady. Agreeing to the meeting was just to avoid Father asking about my past in a city. At 6 p.m., impeccably dressed, I accompanied Father to the Chang'an Club. The Thorntons recently secured several major real estate projects. Although our family doesn't need to rely on them, if things work out between you and Miss Thornton, I can confidently hand over the family business to you. I gazed out the car window, smiling faintly. Let's see how it goes, Dad. Having just ended a relationship, I wasn't ready to jump into another one. Soon, we arrived at the Chang'an Club. Security at the entrance was noticeably stricter than years ago. My tattoo with Victoria's name barely peeked out, but the attendant asked me to remove my jacket. "Sir, please cooperate with the security check." I frowned and took off my jacket. A sweet female voice sounded from behind me. "Uncle Ashworth, what a coincidence." Turning around, I saw a pure, clean face with baby-like features. Her gaze flickered towards my abs. I didn't miss the flash of admiration in her eyes. "Ah, Isabel, what a coincidence indeed, running into you right at the door." So this was the Miss Thornton father mentioned. She didn't seem as formidable as rumored, looking quite harmless, but her eyes were startlingly bright, carrying a sharp, astute glint. "Uncle Ashworth, is this your son?" As I put my jacket back on, Father and Miss Thornton were chatting warmly. "Yes, my son. Just returned to Beijing. I thought since you two hadn't met, I'd introduce you." Everyone present was intelligent. Some things didn't need explicit explanation. Isabel Thornton smiled and extended her hand towards me. "Hello, I'm Isabel Thornton. Very pleased to meet you." Not missing the playful glint in her eyes, I shook her hand. "Sincere Ashworth." Isabel and I got along well during dinner. Father was exceptionally happy when we returned home and handed over the family business to me the next day. After about a week of being busy, Daniel Woods called from a city. He said Victoria had been relentlessly looking for me, constantly asking for my contact information, driving him crazy. I paused for a moment, then said, "Give her my contact info." After hanging up, I stood by the window thinking about Isabel's persistent invitations over the past week, and how I had decisively turned her down this morning. A minute later, my phone rang. Victoria's voice, tense, came through. "Sincere," I confirmed with Ethan. "Nothing happened that night." "Sincere, I didn't cheat. I didn't do anything to betray you." "Where are you, Sincere? Can I come apologize to you?" My tone grew distant. "Victoria, our breakup wasn't about cheating." Her breath hitched, her voice softened. "Then what was it about?" Patiently, I recounted the events of those days, my feelings. "You gave him the supercar, the underwear, took photos, treated him to seafood feasts, fended him right in front of me." "Victoria, what made me give up wasn't that photo of you two together. It was your attitude. Your attitude towards him, towards me, every single instance was proof you no longer loved me. When you love someone, your subconscious actions don't lie." Victoria's voice choked with sobs. "No, Sincere, I love you. I miss you so much. After you left, I really missed you. I can't live without you. How can you say I don't love you?" I remained silent for a long moment, then said softly, "You're just sad about leaving someone you were with for a long time. It doesn't mean you still love me. Victoria, we loved each other once. Let's part amicably. Stop looking for me. Don't turn yourself into someone hysterical." Victoria's cries came through the phone, each sob more pitiful than the last. Yet my heart remained unmoved. A relationship between two people, no matter how damaged, might have a chance of repair. But once a third person is involved, that love is no longer pure. My love allows no impurities. Initially, I considered that Isabel Thornton seemed genuinely interested in me. Being with her could maximize benefits for both the Ashworth and Thornton families, but ultimately, I didn't do it. I want my relationships to be pure. That day, I told her decisively I just ended my last relationship and have no intention of starting a new one right now. I want to focus my energy on work. Isabel remarked on my directness, said she truly liked me and was willing to wait. I said no. Love cannot be waited for, nor can it withstand constant depletion. Even Victoria and I, familiar with each other after 9 years, parted ways amid repeated disappointments. Almost another week later, Daniel suddenly told me Victoria and Ethan had a massive argument at the company, ending on bad terms. The scene was intense, becoming common knowledge. I opened the surveillance video Daniel sent me. It showed Victoria and Ethan arguing. The gist was, Ethan felt he'd been an assistant for 4 years and wanted to resign and start his own business. Victoria disagreed. At first, Ethan tried to coax Victoria, but gradually grew impatient. He threatened to take the company's clients if Victoria didn't release him from his non-compete agreement. Victoria laughed at his naivety. Their words were laced with overt and covert threats. After watching, I just found it amusing. Since the company's founding, Victoria managed the front-end sales. and I managed back-end operations. I often reminded her not to reveal all her cards to subordinates, but she shared everything with Ethan. Ending up like this was an expected outcome. But I was more curious, didn't Ethan like Victoria? Why would he want to leave her and go solo? Soon, I found the answer. Daniel said Ethan somehow convinced Victoria to terminate the non-compete agreement. He started his own company. The company name was based on Victoria's name. The company's business was poached from Victoria's. Not only that, he began pursuing Victoria with great fanfare. Victoria was furious, rejected him outright, and gave the 99,999 roses he sent to her employees. Simultaneously, she started suppressing Ethan within the industry. The once inseparable pair officially became mortal enemies. Victoria practically lived at the office, competing with Ethan for deals. Ethan fought back fiercely, lowering profit margins to win clients. The city clothing industry was thrown into turmoil by their feud. Daniel called me, complaining bitterly, asking if I could sell my shares. He didn't want to deal with this mess anymore. I said that was fine. Running a company isn't child's play. Victoria and Ethan were being too reckless. I thought their struggle would last longer, but unexpectedly Victoria quietly arrived in Beijing. She somehow found out where I was, stood outside the company building staring intently at the main entrance, not missing a single figure. I stood at the privacy-protected window on the 3rd floor, looking down at her. She looked thinner, her cheeks completely hollowed, eye sockets deeper than before, with deep exhaustion etched under her eyes, like she hadn't slept properly in a long time. I took the elevator down. The moment I stepped out of the company, Victoria's ecstatic voice reached my ears. Sincere, I nodded coolly, observing her carefully. How long has it been since you slept properly? Up close, her exhaustion looked even more severe. A flicker of sadness crossed Victoria's eyes. She tightened her grip on her briefcase. After you left, I found it hard to sleep. Seeing my silence, tears instantly streamed down her face. Sincere, I miss you so much. Please come back. I can't live without you. I took a step back, ignoring her attempt to step forward for an embrace. Victoria, we've already broken up, and I won't go back. Victoria seemed to crumble, tears sliding down her cheeks. Why we used to be so good together just because of some misunderstanding with Ethan, you pushed me away so coldly. I looked at her uncomprehending eyes and stated calmly, it wasn't a misunderstanding. Her eyes widened, looking at me with confusion. Ethan liked you. You knew all along. I used to think Victoria was unaware of Ethan's feelings for her, until recently when Isabel Thornton kept finding reasons to discuss collaborations with me. When you like someone, it shows in your eyes, even if you don't say it. Especially a crush spanning 4 years. You used my feelings for you to help build the company. Then you used Ethan's feelings for you to advance your career. Victoria, you want to have your cake and eat it too. You deserve this outcome. Panic flashed in Victoria's eyes. She anxiously grabbed my sleeve. No, Sincere, there was really nothing between him and me. I never knew he loved me from start to finish. I laughed coldly, opened my phone, and displayed a chat history. A chat history from Ethan, seeking reconciliation with me. The Ashworth family business wasn't in clothing, but the Thornton family's was. Isabel, having somehow learned about my past in a city, had blocked Ethan's deals. Ethan came to me explaining everything. He produced evidence of Victoria intentionally cultivating his loyalty and affection. These chat logs, between the lines, revealed Victoria's dissatisfaction with me. She found me domineering, too forceful, inconsiderate of her feelings. She said if the company didn't currently depend on me, she wouldn't even want to be in the same room. She said Ethan was her salvation. Ethan had used these very chat logs to blackmail Victoria into releasing him from the non-compete. Now he used these same chat logs to make me fully recognize Victoria's true colors. Victoria, if you want to use relationships for advancement, you need to be sure you have the power to back it up. My words were like knives, piercing Victoria's heart. Her face alternated between pale and flushed. Overcome with shame and anger, she turned and left. She probably knew she could never win me back in this lifetime. The summer evening breeze was warm. Isabel Thornton, driving a pink Bugatti Veyron, slowly pulled up beside me, rolled down the window, and smiled. "Hey, handsome, care to join me for dinner?" I smiled resignedly and opened the passenger door. The next news I heard about Victoria and Ethan came half a year later. Apparently, after returning, Victoria surprisingly partnered with Ethan on a new project, putting aside their past grievances. It went smoothly, both made money. But this same project created huge conflicts between them. Their two companies started fighting over deals again. Former partners became the fiercest rivals. Another 6 months passed. Victoria's company acquired Ethan's. Simultaneously, Ethan's social media account was wiped clean overnight. Only one sentence remained: "Goodbye forever." Learning this news stirred no emotion in me. Victoria could shamelessly seek reconciliation with me. Ethan could use Victoria to seek my forgiveness. Neither of them was any good. A long time later, Daniel told me Victoria was sick, brain cancer. He heard it was from overworking, late nights, difficult to treat, requiring long-term therapy. Daniel asked if my heart ached. I looked at Isabel Thornton, dozing lightly in the passenger seat beside me, and fell into thought. What should I take her to eat for lunch?